What's good, guys? Welcome to the show. This is Overthinking, the show where we, pretty much try to overthink to stop overthinking. My name is Gabe, and I am here to talk to you guys and keep you guys company because I wanted to share what goes on through my mind and what goes on with different things that I have encountered given the experience that I've been through. Basically, I am a life and relationship coach. I'm a fitness instructor, and I'm also a business consultant. So I have seen so many different things. So what we're going to be tackling on this show is we're going to be tackling things about life, about love, and pretty much everything else that goes into our minds. Well, mine at least. So I hope you guys are enjoying. If you're tuned in via the podcast, don't forget to please like and follow and subscribe or whatever it is that you do on a podcast app that you use. And if you guys want to watch the video that accompanies this, it's going to be up on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Gabe Roberto. And for those of you who are tuned in via YouTube, thank you so much. I hope you guys start to enjoy this new series that I'm going to be doing. Again, this is Overthinking. Just life talks, going to be quick and pretty much seamless. And if you're in the channel, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell for every single moment that I update. Hopefully every Monday there's going to be a new episode of Overthinking. We're going to be tackling brief topics. So today, without further ado, I wanted to tackle something that's very close to my heart, and that's anxiety. So I struggle, and I have struggled with anxiety many times. I have medication for it. I have been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and I live with it. And I am glad and proud to say that I am a high-functioning anxious person. And it's not to say that I have forgone all my anxieties. No, my anxieties still live within me. But I have managed to take control of my anxieties, use that same energy to fuel me to do things creatively or inspire me to do something even more. And that has really made a big difference in what I do when I do get my anxiety attacks. That's not to say as well that I don't surrender to it sometimes. Sometimes I can just, wallow and be in this state of anxiousness where I am completely not productive. And that's something that I want to discuss as well later on. Dealing with the lack or decrease in productivity that you will get as you encounter anxiety. So some of the things that are trademark or hallmarks of anxiety is overthinking, ironically. It's also noticing your body function faster or at a different rate. So your heart rate speeds up, your breathing speeds up, your mind starts thinking at a million paces a second. And that's when anxiety kicks in and you start feeling overwhelmed. But the thing about anxiety is it's literally something that your mind is doing to you. It's not to say that we're going to minimize what you're feeling or what you're experiencing. No. Anxiety, in the essence of it, is your mind playing tricks on you. It's telling you that there is danger or something that's scary or fearful just around the corner, when the reality is it's something that either hasn't happened yet or is just a feeling that is unfounded because you have gone in through the rabbit hole of your anxiety and it just piles on. So it's very important, and this is something that I have always told many of my clients who deal with anxiety, is to ground yourself when you have those anxious moments, right? Your anxious moments, you'll find yourself either pacing around. It's going to have a little bit of the ADHD, ADD kind of like symptoms where you're going to be hopping around from thought to thought, thing to thing that you're doing, and you can't quite fully accomplish it because your mind is constantly worrying. So when you're in this anxious state, what you want to do is you want to really slow down that mind processing. You want to slow down as well the physical manifestation of your mind processing at a million light years, right? So what we're going to do here is something that I like to call tapping, and it's something that's been proven. It's grounding yourself to your body. So you can either tap the top of your hand just to remind you to go back to your body, or the side of your temple. Just tap it with your finger, 2 fingers even. Gently tap it, brings you back. Or you can also be conscious of your own anxious movements. So some people, they tend to shake their leg when they're anxious, right? It's the shaking of that leg. That's a sign of anxiety, and that's something that you can actually treat and use as a treatment to calm yourself down, to ground yourself, and process your emotions one by one. Like I said, we're not here to invalidate what you're feeling, but we're here to process it at a much more manageable pace so that you can kind of have that progress into really becoming more functional rather than surrendering to your anxiety. The thing about anxiety is most of the time, like I said earlier, it's our minds playing tricks on us, right? Anxiety usually has that tendency to make something appear bigger than it really is. It might feel like your fear is much more overstated. It might feel like something could be much more intense, when in the reality of it is it's actually something more manageable and something that you can get through, right? So what are the things that you can do? The first thing that we talked about is tapping. The second thing that I want you to do when you're faced with anxious emotions is I want you to be able to be cognizant of what you're thinking. How do you do that? It's either you write them down, you journal, you write down your thoughts, or another way to go about it is you actually talk to a confidant or your counselor or a coach just like myself, right? So what you want to do is you want to be able to voice out and manifest those thoughts outside of your head and into the real world, because then you're actually putting it into a physical state and you're not going to be overstating how scary or big or daunting that thought is, right? And that's what anxiety is. It's overstating a fear. So as you draw yourself out of your mind through tapping or bringing yourself back to your physical body, the next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be speaking it out or writing it out so that you can see that it's not as overwhelming. Then what I would like for you to do when you're faced with these anxious moments, and this is what I do all the time for myself, is I try to situate myself and base myself off of the facts that I know. So what do I mean by this? So we always will take, let's say I'm anxious about my job interview, or I'm anxious about my partner who is going on a trip with all of their friends and I'm not invited. What if they cheat on me? What if they get drunk and they don't have control over their capacities? That's when anxiety kicks in. And it's a lot of what ifs. But what you want to ground yourself on is the what is, right? So instead of saying, what if this happens? What if I fail my job interview? What if I stumble and fumble and don't, what if I'm not good enough, in essence, right? Or what if my partner has a little bit too much to drink and she or he decides to hook up with somebody, and then that just goes into another rabbit hole, and now you're paralyzed with anxiousness. What you want to do is you want to ground yourself with a what is. And by what is basically grounding yourself to the realities of what you know. So, on the case of the job interview, what is factual and something that you can ground yourself on? It's your skills, it's your history, it's your work experience, it's your college degree, it's whatever you've learned and worked for to get to this position. It might be something new, but at the same time, it's something that you can actually work through and kind of like ground yourself on and rely on yourself and remind yourself that, hey, I actually have the credentials for this. What is there that can combat the what if? So what if I fail, or what if I'm not what they look for? Then you can say, what is it that I have to offer? What is it that I have to show for my skills? And that's going to show you how your anxiety, while it's valid and very real, can be offset by something that can kind of like strengthen you or empower you. The other thing that I want to talk about is, for example, the relationship, right? What if my partner cheats on me because they got too drunk or inebriated? Well, what is your past experience with your partner? Have you guys been together for how long, and has this happened before? And does he or she give you reason to doubt their fidelity with you? It's really more about how you know your partner. And in that sense, you want to ground yourself with the thought of your knowledge of what is your relationship like with this person. Is it built out of trust? Is the trust strong enough? And that's a big discussion that we're going to have in a future episode for sure. But for now, when you're faced with an anxious thought with your partner, what I want you to start thinking about is, what is my basis for that? Or has he or she shown me support, loyalty, complete and undying love even? So all of that really comes into play. When you're anxious, we tend to kind of like teeter on the side of the negative. And you have to ground yourself on realizing that there are positives in that as well. There's positives in your skills, there's positive in your partner. You're with them for a reason, right? And if you have reason to doubt, then that's a different conversation. So it's really important for you to understand that, to understand yourself there, to understand what is going on, what is your grounding reasons to believe yourself, so that you can combat your anxiety, right? So when you're faced with those anxious emotions, I want you to see there's 3 things already that you can do. The first thing is, again, getting yourself back to your physical self. Which is by means of tapping or just anything that is physical that draws you out of your brain. Second is to manifest it into reality, or kind of like write it down, speak it out. The third is to ground yourself and combat whatever you write down with factual contradictions of your fears, right? Show yourself that there's really nothing there for you to fear or be worried about, except that the fact that there just was a lot of emotions and thoughts and different feelings that you had to process. And that's essentially what you have to do. We have to work through that. We have to work through your emotions, because the more and more you sweep your emotions and thoughts and feelings under the rug, the more kind of like unknown and uncertain you become about it, because you don't see what's going on. So it's very important that you become aware of it, you acknowledge it. And by acknowledging it step by step, you don't have to acknowledge it at one big go, step by step, you allow yourself to become a lot more in control of yourself. And that's something that really works with my anxiety, right? It's slowly coming to terms with your emotions. That's what it really is. And that's how we can get yourself out of your brain, out of your heart, out of your feelings, and tackle them with the mindfulness that you need. So yeah, I think that is so important for those of you dealing with anxiety. It's something that definitely can be dealt with on your own, but if it's a consistent and persistent thing, my suggestion is to please go and contact a medical professional, right? Because there are tools and medications that you can use and you can acquire from them that will help you treat your anxiety, especially when your anxiety becomes debilitating to the point that you're not going to be functional. Now, what happens when you feel like you're not going to be able to function because of your anxiety? The quick answer there is, then don't. Find a safe space. Let your friends, family, co-workers know that you're not in the right mental space right now to do some work, to interact, to engage, and calm yourself down. It's self-care. It's okay for you to submit yourself there. But allow yourself to be aware as well that you are dealing with anxiety, or you're dealing with something that is greatly bothering you, right? And that is so crucial, because when it becomes that, that's even more reason for you to see a medical professional, right? And it's okay. It doesn't detract from your capabilities or your stature as a person. It actually is just a very normal thing. We get overwhelmed by different things. You know, some people are afraid of heights. Some people are afraid of spiders, like myself. So when you're faced with things that you fear, sometimes you stop completely in your tracks, and that's okay. Because that's a normal response. What's not normal is if you continue to surrender to that. So what we want to do is we want to gain mastery of that fear, gain control through those grounding techniques, through those awareness techniques. And with those techniques that I've shared with you, those are just some few quick tidbits that we can do to really ground yourself when you're having an anxious moment. But like I said earlier on, it's just really important as well, if it's overwhelming to the point that it is just you don't even know what to do, or it's really affecting yourself, it's important to get medication for that. There is medication for severe anxiety. Calms yourself down, allows you to really understand what you're going through, and kind of like get yourself out of your mind for that moment, right? And then we go back to the tools that I mentioned at the start of the show. So it's very important for you to really understand these things about anxiety. It's not something that makes you any weaker. It's not something that makes you any kind of like less of a person. It's actually a very important aspect of who you are, because it's a way of protecting yourself, right? So don't see anxiety as a debilitating thing. It's a way to protect yourself. It's your body and your mind trying to protect itself. But sometimes when we get lost in that, it might not be as beneficial for you. So being mindful of what makes you anxious is so important. So during this, I hope that you really have understood what things you can do when you find yourself in an anxious state, what you can also kind of like think about when you're there, and what new understandings you have about anxiety. And I hope that it is no longer something that you feel ashamed of having when you have anxious thoughts. It's something that it's definitely addressable. So if you want to work with me in addressing your anxiety, let's work on that. You can feel free to send me a message over on Instagram. It's at coach_Gabe Barrios with 2 R's. You can also send me an email at coach.gabebarrios@gmail.com. We can definitely work through your anxious moments. Like I said earlier on as well, it's a crucial part to really talk to somebody and talk through your emotions when you're in an anxious state. So I'll be there to help you process that. Having somebody who's standing from a different perspective, a different lens, will definitely help you kind of like filter through your emotions, filter through your thoughts, and that's really just going to be able to get you to that place of functionality, right? And coming from a high functioning anxious person, trust me, it's definitely doable. You know, I'm always constantly faced with different blindsided actions by friends, family, partners. I don't want to say partners. I only have one partner. But basically what I'm trying to say here is my life has a lot of reason for me to be anxious. But I will always, number one, acknowledge my anxiety. Number two, work through my anxiety so that I can live past my anxiety. And that's what we want to do. Live past your anxiety. It's going to be a part of you, but it's not going to control, nor is it going to kind of like limit you, because it's just a natural human emotion, a natural human reaction to fear the uncertain, to fear the unknown, to fear all of these things. So just understand that and work through that. and we'll get it step by step. So there you guys have it. If you guys have any other questions, if you guys have any other topics that you would like for me to talk about in the future, please feel free to send me an email with your topics that you like. Again, it's coach.gabebarrios@gmail.com. You can also hit me up over on Instagram. It's at coach_Gabe Barrios. And yeah, and hopefully, or you guys can leave a comment down below in the YouTube channel. I will go through that. Let's try to build this community, support each other, and I would love to help you get to where you want to be in your goals, whether it be for yourself, for your relationship, for your career, or whatever else it is. So I'll see you guys real soon, and I'll catch you again next Monday for Overthinking.